Hey, Abigail. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. I can't tell you, I've been looking forward to it. So thank you so much. And Abigail is a co-author in the book Raising Wild Ones. So we each wrote a chapter. We collaborated in that book, Raising Wild Ones, Empowering the Next Generation of Sovereign Leaders. And Abigail Mensah-Bonsu is a feminine leadership mentor, goddess activator, multi-dimensional healer, intuitive podcast host, and international best-selling author and publisher. And she works with women, creating conscious, heart-centered impact and supporting them with spiritual tools to align, protect, and amplify their light, purpose, and legacy in the world. Wow. So Abigail, yeah, I know you work specifically with empaths as well, which is something that a lot of my clients are empaths. So I think we have that in common, which is amazing.
Yes, we do. Well,
Yeah.
First I want to say, Gabrielle, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me and having this conversation with me. I'm really excited to chat with you. I've seen your work too. And I remember, when you post about the empath, I was like, yeah. So the focus on my work, I support women leaders, women who are out there creating bigger impact, bigger ripples in the world. That's where my passion really lies. And I teach them the tools that allows them to continue to shine their light without the fear of, like, oh my gosh, overwhelm of too much energy or, energy vampires, all that spiritual stuff that you deal with when you expand yourself. So I teach them the tools to create this spiritual fortitude that just helps them just blaze through fearlessly, powerfully, and just in their light, all of who they are. And that's where my passion is. Empaths are in there too, because again, I'm working with energy. So it only makes sense that they will come in. I have the tools that I can teach them how to manage the energetics of our living nature. Let's put it that way. So not only their energy, but also like the cosmic energies, the planetary, all the energies that are constantly here dancing with us. Once you understand these energies and you see the flow or the invitations they bring to you each time, you begin to dance with them, and then it doesn't feel overwhelming. And then learning the tools, the other part that's coming in very strongly, which is I'll talk more about it at the end, is like a lot of empaths, highly sensitive people, intuitives, healers, anyone who works with energies. I tend to hear, oh my gosh, at the end of the day, I'm just exhausted. I just feel like all my energy is drained, or I didn't want to go to that party because it's just too much energy, and these people are so amazing. I'm like, oh my gosh, your light needs to be out there. Like, this is unacceptable, and it's only because they just don't know the tools that will allow them to be like, oh, I can be in the midst of this party and still feel at peace, And so that's where my passion is, because I want the empaths. I believe empaths are one of the most powerful, gifted people, but they just don't understand the magnitude of that gift. Like, what is this? Most of the time is seen as a burden, as a curse, which I'm sure you've probably heard that before. Yeah.
So do you find that empaths, when they come to you and you start working with them, oftentimes they'll feel like it's like a curse, and that they've received societal messages that they're too much, or they feel too much, or they're too sensitive. They have to, and they feel like going basically under the covers down, and going to hide away, and
absolutely they get really down,
depressed, overwhelmed, shut down, or really anxious.
Anxious, shut down, afraid, with the anxiety, just going outside. It's just, I'm an empath as well. And I don't even like going with the word empath, because at some point, I call it the elevated empath, or the compassionate empath, because that's the next level of empathy, is compassion. The way I differentiate those two, empathy is when, like you see someone suffering, you get into the container, you take on the suffering, you become that suffering. So you are right in there with them. You're in the trenches with them. You're carrying that heaviness with them. And, it sounds like it's a good thing, but there's a couple of things that, okay, I'll come back to that. Let me just talk about the differentiations. When you step into the next level, or the higher aspect of empathy, that's compassion, is seeing that person suffering, seeing, let's say, the shoe that is sitting there, right? You just witness it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what they're feeling because you feel it. It's part of your gift. You understand it because it's part of your intuitive nature, but you don't have to wear that shoe. You don't have to go in the trenches with them and carry that weight or take on that weight. And going back to what I wanted to say is that when empaths do that, and I did this for some time before I realized, it's like a lot of sensitive people do this because it sounds noble. It sounds like, oh, I'm just helping you carry your burden. So we take on pieces and then we hold on to it saying, oh, you don't have to suffer. But what happens is that the other person needs those pieces to heal, to reintegrate it before they can move forward. So here they are trying to figure things out and come back to themselves and try to figure out how to get out of that rut, the suffering. And you're holding the very pieces they need to do that.
Yeah.
So if you see, it's like you're not doing them any good by taking on their suffering. What
right,
you can
by like trying to carry their burden or try to fix it or like assume responsibility for, or get into the trenches with them and like, basically, yeah, suffer with them. And that I think what you're talking about is like, yeah, be there with them, but be in your own self, but you're not in that same experience. You're having your own experience.
Yes.
And you're gonna have your own suffering. We all get that.
We all do, right? But here's the other thing: the true gift of empaths is that they are a pure channel of divine love. The purest channel of divine love. And that's all they need to be. That's all we need to be. We don't need to, step into your crap and carry your load in order to help you to beam that love into you. If you just recognize that my gift as an empath means that I'm just a pure conduit of divine love. So all I need to be is just be that which I already am. I am a pure conduit of divine love. I am divine love. So when I come in contact with someone who's suffering, I just need to be that, and it will emanate to them. They will receive that blessing. They will receive that code. They will get activated. They'll get healed without me having to use any of my energy. And that's the other thing. Empaths, especially, I see this, who are coaches, mentors, healers, they use their own energies to heal, to activate. No wonder they're exhausted afterwards. In grad school, I remember I went to Chinese medicine school, and in clinic, a lot of my classmates would come to me and be like, how are you not exhausted after seeing so-and-so? You're like, that was too much. And, as we went through the program, more people would come to me and ask me. I'd be like, well, put a bubble around you. Like I have techniques that like progresses, and I'll teach them and they'll see a shift. And then more will come and, so eventually I was asked to teach classes on that and teach them how to manage their own energy so that when they go in with the client the patient who's suffering, they can be the best healer they can be without giving their energy or taking anything on. And it's freeing. Let's just put it that way. It is. So
what you're saying is like being, they are a channel, empaths are a channel. So it's like when you stand in that energy of, you're also receiving.
Yes.
And you're being supported. You're not just giving your own energy away, you're receiving, and you're just like emanating or beaming that energy out and holding that space.
Yes. Yeah, you are a conduit. You're
Right.
constantly receiving. But here's the thing with the using, whether someone uses their own energy or not, it's a choice. And usually it's because they don't know not to do that. They just feel, well, I have all these influx of energy. I can just give you some. I feel really good. I should just give you some of my energy. And it sounds so noble and beautiful. But at the end of the day, if your channel, if you haven't opened that, let's say, like turn that valve so that you can continuously receive the divine grace within you, that divine love within you, and you're just constantly just giving away your energy, what happens? Your cup gets empty, and then you keep giving, right? You keep giving because you're like, that's all I know of, so there's two things. It's like embracing your gift as an empath, understanding what that means. It's like, I'm a pure channel of divine love. And that divine love is always pouring into me. And I'm always transmitting that wherever I go, regardless of what I'm doing, regardless of what is going on, because that's just who I am. Mm-hmm. So when I come in contact with someone, my energy is my energy. But the divine love that is pouring through me, the divine grace that is pouring through me, that can be transmitted to all who needs it. And I don't get to be like, you get it, you don't get it. It would just go where it needs to go. It's like you have to step out of your own way and let your magic happen, right? So see, it can be so easy, but unless you were raised, you were lucky enough to have mentors when you were younger to master this. Most of us didn't learn this until way later, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think there's another part as well, as let's say you're with someone who's coming to you for help, or you're trying to support or whatever. When you're giving your energy away, it's like you're also conveying the message that they need your support, that they can't plug in themselves and receive, because they have their own journey and they potentially have a connection themselves with their own divine support or their own internal, whatever it may be, whatever people believe, have different belief systems around that. But,
it's like you take away their power.
Yeah.
When you do that, in the way you take away their power, you take away their ability to notice how strong they are. Mm-hmm. You take away the courage, like they know, like every lesson, every challenges that we experience, I always say the divine will never give you something that you cannot handle. Everything that we receive, we have the tools to make it over or break through it. And it is through that process of figuring it out that we gain strength, that we gain, the courage, that we come back to ourselves. So when you take that away from them, you're doing them a great injustice. Right.
Like handicapping them in a way. I mean,
exactly.
Right? So it's not, yeah.
Yeah. So empaths, if you're doing that, cut it out. Like, stop it. Let's just put an end to that right now. You're not doing anyone any good. You're not doing yourself any good, because you're taking on something that is not yours to begin with. And you're not doing the other person any good, because you're taking away something that they need in order to progress. They need in order to make it to that next level. So yeah, cut it out.
Yeah. So, I mean, I work with a lot of empaths in their relationships, intimate relationships and family relationships. And I mean, I know it's a little more complex when it's like intimate, family, and because we get more deeply triggered. And
yes,
but it's an opportunity for healing, all that. In my view, that's the way I see it. But, one of the things I really want to ask you about today is because I know you wrote about your journey as a mom in raising wild ones, and it was very touching reading your story.
Thank you.
And I just want to ask you how did that journey of becoming a mom change you, and what were some of the challenges that came up? Because I think your son is only 3, right? So it's only been a few years. So
he'll be
fresh
4.
in your memory, all the
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
he'll be 4 in about 3 weeks, 3 weeks. Yeah, so but
You said
wow.
something about when you became pregnant, you were right away, you knew, you were aware
Yes.
that you were carrying this child.
Oh, totally. I mean, he started coming in way before I even met my husband. And then when I met my husband, he was definitely really there. And I was like, dude, it's not time yet. Come on. We were in grad school. I was like, no, it's not. Stop it. And even my husband, at that point he felt him. We weren't sure if it was a boy or girl, because when it comes to spirit, there's no gender. But we knew there was a soul that would come through us. Like we would bring that soul through. And so he was always with me, and I knew that it would happen. So I remember, and I share this in the book, my husband and I had been talking about it. And, one morning I woke up and I heard very clear, it's like, it is time. And my body, it's almost like it clicked, like something clicked in my body. And I woke up, I sat on the bed and I looked at my husband and I said, it's time. Hi. Hi, what's up? Okay, he's
Hey.
good. Yeah, so I told him it was time. And that week, I didn't tell my husband when I was gonna take out my IUD. I was just like, no, we don't need any pressure. It's not like you have to. So I didn't even tell him when I took it off, but it was Thursday, I took it off. And also it was like intuitively he knew, like he knew. And so by Sunday, I remember I was editing I do these weekly goddess energy forecasts, and I was editing the video for that week. And all of a sudden my attention is like everything was drawn to my womb. And the way I explain it is like, when a star explodes,
Mhm.
what is it, like a supernova? It was like that. It was like all the attention like drew in, and I saw this star, and then it exploded, and there was stars everywhere. And I felt it in my womb, and I touched my womb, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I looked at him, I was like, it is done. It is done. Like is done. He's here. And of course I was like, okay, my mind. So 2 weeks later, I tested, and I was like, see, I told you. Right there. And he's like, of course you knew it, but I was like, my brain, needed something. Yeah. So the whole thing was very, the conception was very intuitive. And then even through the pregnancy, my energy was just like, I pulled everything in. I remember I didn't tell a lot of people. It was just my family. That was it. Family and close friends knew. I didn't have any interest sharing about it. I didn't have any interest posting about it. Like nobody knew until that child was out. And then my husband posted something like, wait, what? And even that, it took a while for me to even step out and actually share that, because it was such a sacred journey for me that I was one with that journey. And
Mhm.
there's so much that I was doing. One of the things that I noticed is that my own spiritual gifts were amplified. My energy field was so amplified. I was so sensitive to energies that it made me physically nauseous. I could not handle it. It is, and here's the thing, every pregnant woman goes through this, and not just me. It's like the moment that beautiful soul drops in, or when that happens, when we become pregnant, when we're carrying and creating this new being within ourselves, our energy field is like 2 or 3 times,
Mm.
like that massive and that sensitive and that powerful. So my husband got me like it's called the magician stone necklace, and I always wanted it. It has like what is it called, the meteorite stone, moldavite, and then it has this star, something that's it's like very powerful. And I could not wear that the entire pregnancy. Like even touching it made me nauseous, because it amplified the energy even more. And so
Wow.
yeah, it definitely amplifies your gifts. Like when I was doing, talking to clients, it's like I didn't have to do much. it was right there. Like things just flowed like that. But at the same time, there's this cocoon of protection that I had around me. It was non-negotiable. It's like not just for me, but also this beautiful being that the way it's like the sacred creation that was happening within me. So I mean, my protection field was also like amplified, let's put it that way.
You really felt like that mama bear energy, that
Yes,
protective,
yes,
strong.
yeah. And
But
it wasn't
also,
even,
hmm?
yeah, it wasn't even something that, like I had to do. It's almost like it was almost like the next part of the journey. It's like it just flowed into it. And I sometimes I wonder if other women have this experience, where it's like an intuitive thing that comes through, and we have different ways of expressing it. For me, I understood, I guess the other reason why I withdrew my energy, in terms of like sharing it and talking about it. And I know a lot of pregnant women will relate to this. You start to hear other mothers or other people tell you what you should be experiencing, how you should feel, what you should do. What I'm talking about. So after, for me, it's like I want to experience my own experience, and some of my friends who also got pregnant or later on, they're like, why do some women think that it's okay to come and share their negative experience with me? It's like they tell the horrible things that happen during birthing. And, if that woman is not aware and conscious, they take on that fear, and then that fear becomes their reality as well. And so when I'm working with my clients who are pregnant, it's like, okay, let's focus on your vision. What do you see? Because that imprint is already there, that blueprint is already there. Hold on to that. You don't need to share that with anybody. And you also don't need to take anybody's advice. That's their experience. It's not your experience.
Right. So I mean, I love the way you really listen to yourself and to your own experience, especially during that time. Like you really honed in. And what also struck me is like, for you, it sounds like, even from the moment you conceived and you're carrying your baby, it was like a spiritual journey for you.
Oh yeah, it
That's
was.
what I'm hearing all the time when I hear you speak, and what I read in what you wrote. It's like that came across very strongly. So
It
I don't
was
know if you want to,
1,000%
yeah,
spiritual journey.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, everything about it. Even now, even now afterwards, it's still a spiritual journey. And it's kind of hard to find words to it because I wonder, like if you have awareness of the soul that wants to come through you before the conception, before the pregnancy, before the birth, and I wonder if that will allow one to really tune in or deepen into that spiritual aspect of the journey. So or maybe it's because my true nature is spiritual, so it's easy for me to just dive right in there, versus the more physical aspect of things.
Yeah.
Who
I'm
knows?
wondering, like, what would you like if somebody came to you and you said, like, you talked about channeling or being a conduit for divine grace? They say, I don't believe in that stuff. What would you say to that, for instance? Because I know a lot of people are not thinking of, on that at that level, or not, don't believe in, when we talk about things like that, they can't relate to that. And
Yes. So the first thing that I do, because the truth is the people that come to me, even if they say that, oh, this is woo-woo stuff, the fact that they were drawn to my energy tells me a lot that internally they do believe in a higher consciousness. Perhaps maybe they don't want to be seen as woo-woo, or they're hiding like a spiritual, closet kind of thing, But when I hear someone say that, I'm like, okay, well, you don't have to, but what do you feel? Can you, I usually will drop them into their heart and have them share with me the experience. And this is kind of like throughout my work, when I'm taking someone on a journey, for example, if I'm doing like past life regression or future life regression, I'm not the one like being like, okay, you're here, you're doing this, you're doing that. I let them tell me the story so they get to experience it. They're the ones doing it. And so when they come out, it's not like, oh, Abigail told me this. It's like, this is what I experienced, right? So I do that. That's my whole point. It's like, I'm teaching you that whatever you're asking, whatever you're seeking is already within you. It's like, I'm just the guide. I'm just the mentor. Like, here you go. Here's
Right.
the
You're not
pathway that you're
managing their
looking for.
experience. You're helping
Yes,
them connect with their own experience.
exactly. So what I do, I just drop them into their hearts. I have a
Mhm.
whole process that I do, very simple. And then we start asking, I start going into it. Well, what do you believe?
Mhm.
What is in your heart? If it is not God, if it is not, divine, what is that? Do you believe in a higher consciousness? And I'll usually get a yes. That like, well, explain that to me. What does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that taste like? Tell me what that is. And they will describe to me their own connection to the divine
Right.
in your own words.
It
And I'm
doesn't
like,
have to
and
have,
that's
you
what it
don't
is.
have to use the same words. They don't have to use the same
Exactly.
words, but it's
Yes.
coming from their own experience.
Exactly.
And,
And that, I
you
feel like most people feel like, well, to be spiritual, that means I have to do this a certain way. I have to dress a certain way. I have to look a certain way. And I'm like, it has nothing to do with that and everything to do with your connection. It's between you and that higher consciousness. Whatever that is, that's all that matters. You
yeah.
might be the most spiritual person and wear suits, and usually when I say that, people laugh, but it's like, yeah, it has nothing to do. It's like when you connect to your own divinity, how it wants to be expressed will be expressed, and it will
Mhm.
look different than any other
Right. I mean,
person's way
that's
of
the
expressing.
outside, the packaging, right? It can be different,
Yes,
right?
yes, exactly,
But
exactly.
yeah. So
So it's
I'm
all
feeling
about,
like you really tune into your own heart and you feel into your own heart. And yeah, it's very powerful.
thank you. Yeah, I cannot do the work that I'm doing if I wasn't in my heart. I mean, the
Mhm.
whole point is to bring people back to their true nature, to their
Mhm.
true center, to their divinity. And that requires me to be in my heart constantly. And
Mm.
yes, like for me, I have this duality. My mind is also very strong, but I understand its purpose, that it's not meant to stand up on its own trying to figure everything out. Its job is to work with my heart. So my mind has a purpose. My heart comes up with a plan. My heart comes out with a plan. My mind is like, great, this is how we're gonna do it, and we execute it. And so it's like this beautiful dance between my mind and my heart. It's not about rejecting my mind. I love my mind. I love my mind
Yeah,
as
it's,
much
I mean,
as I
it's
love my
handy. It
heart.
comes in handy when you can like discern things and figure
Yes.
things out and, make decisions and understand and like, nuance things. And, but when your mind is taken over and your heart is like, shoved under some
Yes.
couch somewhere or in a cupboard, like
Yes.
from when you were 10 years old because of
Yep.
trauma,
Yeah.
right? That's what happens with trauma. Our heart and
Exactly.
different our parts of us get like, put away in exile or
Yeah.
exiled. Then yeah, it's not the same, right? You're because what I've learned in my work and I've experienced myself sometimes is like your mind is very busy and it can get like just your thoughts can spin so fast and you can be like one is thinking that and the other one's trying arguing against that part and oh my gosh, it's like
Yeah.
it can be overwhelming,
It
right?
can be. Oh, I
And
know. Trust me. I know. One of the simplest exercises that I usually give my clients who are very up here, like mind, intellect, I have them envision their heart as a flower that is open, or that, yeah, it's a flower. And then I have them envision their mind as a ball of light, and that ball just drops into the flower, and the flower kind of wraps around it and just holds
Oh,
it.
wow.
And even just that little thing, like you can tell the face, everything just like relaxes, because the mind is like, oh, I'm home, I'm held, this is where I need to be, and it's so
Oh,
beautiful.
wow.
Like when we understand the true nature of our minds, that it's not meant to be the leader. The heart is supposed to be the leader,
Mm-hmm.
and the mind is supposed to be behind the heart, helping the heart materialize things, bring in this is the structure, this is how we're going to do it, this is the path, this is the step we're going to take. It becomes a beautiful, beautiful dance. And it also, these two reflect in when we start talking about masculine and feminine, right? And also the dance between them. The dance between your mind and your heart reflects into the dance between your own divine masculine and your own divine feminine. And then it goes outward and it shows you your own relationship between men and women.
Mm.
But it all begins with you. It's like, are they in alignment? Are they good? Are they in that beautiful dance? Are they held? Right? That's the
Tell me more
feminine.
about that, the divine feminine, divine masculine. What do you mean, like their mind and your heart, or do you mean but they're both in your heart, or what like what do you?
Yeah, so the mind and the heart are reflections of the divine feminine and the divine masculine aspect of ourselves,
Mm.
and also in the world, manifested in the world, right? Because everything begins with us. And so, when your heart represents the divine feminine, and I think that's where the whole misconception of what people thought the divine feminine was, that is like soft, it's like it should be quiet, it should be silent, like that whole thing. It doesn't have any power.
Wait a second, a mama bear
Right.
isn't soft
like,
or quiet.
like, no, that is not the divine feminine. I mean, if she chooses to, she knows when when she needs to step back and listen. And she also knows when she can move forward fearlessly. The divine feminine is powerful.
And when she courage is needed, right? The courage comes from your heart often, right?
Yeah. And if we're just looking at the heart, it is powerful as well. Just the organ itself, look at what it does. Like when this organ stops, what happens? Everything stops. So how can that organ be even weak? It is not weak. If you've seen a physical human heart, it will blow your mind. It is the most magnificent. I mean, my favorite part of the human body is the brain. Like the first time I saw the brain, I was like, whoa. And then I saw the heart and I was like, oh my gosh, we are incredible beings. Like, this is crazy, right? These organs within our bodies are just as powerful physically as they are spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
And they're meant to work together. You cannot survive without your heart, and you cannot survive without your brain, right? Your organs, you can kind of, go without some of them, but these two, without them, it's like, you're done. You're done. And they need to be together. They actually work together. It just, it's so beautiful. So with the divine masculine, divine feminine aspect of things, when you look at masculine, or when we're talking about how the masculine has, the imbalance, because the mind has been put on the throne, that is the signature of the masculine, power, all of that. But if you really look at the mind, it's like, but that's not where I need to be. I'm missing something. This is why we see so much, imbalance in the world, because it needs its counterpart, which is the heart, which is the feminine, to be right. They're meant to be together. And that's actually the age that we are in right now. I feel like at some point people were thinking that the masculine was going to be, the power of the masculine will be shut down, and then the power of the feminine will rise up. In the spiritual world, you hear it a lot, like the divine feminine is rising. It's like, yes, she's rising, but she's coming up to take her space next to the divine masculine. It's going to be a balance. And we've already experienced societies where it was just the feminine in power, and there was also imbalance there. There's huge imbalance there.
Right.
and we're still experiencing, the times when the masculine is in power. So
Well, what
now it's
happens when
like
the heart like is master and the brain is not like doesn't have as much place.
the word that is coming in is ungroundedness, because I've worked with some of my clients who come in as that, because everything is just, it's almost like you live in this dreamy world, because you have the ideas, you get the inspiration, you get the grace, but you don't have the tangible material to bring it to fruition. So always, these people always look flighty, they're not grounded. When you're talking to them, you can't quite connect
Sort of
to
like
them. They
the
just,
feeling, there's a lot of
yeah,
feelings coming, but
yes,
there's
they
not a lot of
just,
structure
exactly. They're not, it's like
or
a tree
direction.
without roots.
Mhm.
It's like a tree without roots. They're not grounded in this reality. So it's hard to relate to them, even though it's coming from the heart. It's just no
Mhm.
structure, no direction. It's just like, just, that's the best way to explain it. It's like they're flighty. They're always floating. They can't quite relate the physical reality to that dreamy world. They can't connect it. And so it makes it very hard to be in their presence or understand them. And it
Kind of
can be
like
very
disembodied
frustrating.
in a way, right? Or something like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Exactly. So
Mhm.
although that might sound, it's like, oh, well, I can just exist in my heart and just ignore the brain. But you realize that that's not complete. It's not
Right.
complete. Yeah,
Right.
because you're gonna come to a time where you're like, why can I manifest anything? Why can I create the life of my dreams? Well, because you're just in the dream world. There's no tangible. You don't have the materials to make it tangible. The mind has that. The mind comes in with the structure. The mind comes in with the instructions. Like, we're gonna put this foundation here, and we're gonna build this here, and then do this. Like, that's the job of the mind,
And
and that's why
relating
you
to
need help.
reality as well, like
Yes,
3D,
yes, anchoring it.
and
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
mind gives the etheric structure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, I could just talk with you all afternoon. Yeah.
I know each of these topics could be its own chat. Is so it can be deep. We
Yeah.
can, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's been amazing. It's like, I really love connecting with you here. It's,
Thank you. Thank you.
um, yeah. Well, we can do it again, but, um, but I just want to like ask you if there's anything, maybe first of all, where the audience can reach you, and do you have anything going on? Are you working on any current projects or offerings? And yeah, your
Beautiful.
website.
Yes. So you can find me at moongoddessacademy.com, and you can just go to my website. You can find all my social media handle. I have a free Facebook group that you can join, a beautiful, beautiful container community that you can join and be amongst like-minded people. And I do a lot of cool stuff in there to support the members. And so you can just go there and then, find me anywhere else, but it will also tell you everything that I offer. So some other things that I'm working on right now, I have two multi-author books that I'm calling in contributors for. The first one is called Oracle. And with this book, I'm calling in women who are channels, who are intuitives, who have the ability to tune into the divine and bring through powerful messages of healing and activation, and to heal humanity, to activate humanity, to inspire and empower humanity. The second book is called The Book of Activations. And with that book, it is exactly that. I am calling in the activators, both men and women who who carry powerful codes of activations to bring through, whether it's activation of wealth, activation of your higher self, activation of, joy, whatever that is, that code is that you're here to activate in humanity. And it's going to be a codex of activations where you can grab the book and intuitively have your soul guide you to an activation that you need to get you to that next level. And boom, it's right there. You read it, you receive the activation, you're ready to go. So it's going to be
Wow.
powerful, powerful books. And I'm so excited to get it into the world. There's 6 spaces left for book of activations and 5 spaces left for oracle. So if you're hearing this and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, send me a message
And get in
or go
touch
on the
with
website
Abigail.
and apply. Yeah.
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 Is there a deadline for the book?
Yes. October 31st. October
Okay.
31st. So get
Okay.
in there.
So don't
And then
delay if that's
yeah.
you. Yeah.
And
Get
then
in.
the last part, this is a new one, and it's very interesting that we started talking about empath, because it was a message that has been coming in for a while to support empath. I created a mastermind for empaths. It's called Elevated Empath. And there I want to teach the tools that I have mastered in my life that I've shared with my clients. They've experienced amazing transformations so to support empaths to really reclaim their power, to help them manage energy, to understand what that gift is about. Also, what is this other energies that we're constantly dancing with, how to anchor and feel safe and peaceful in this world. I think that's very important, safe and peaceful in this world. So I'm excited to bring those tools in there. So it's all on my website, moongoddessacademy.com.
Oh, well, thank you for that, Liz, because my audience are mostly empaths. So like jump on it if any of you is interested. Like, don't hesitate, to get it. You have a chance to work with Abigail. It sounds just amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Abigail, for taking this time. And yeah, I really, really appreciate everything you're doing and who you are and your insights. And just, it's been really, really delightful spending this time with you.
Thank you for having me. And it has been delightful to connect with you this way.
Yeah. Okay. Bye for now.